Hello students, let's read the problem, and it's asking us to solve, and basically what it means is we're gonna solve for x, right? If you look at the equation that is given to us, the variable x appears on both sides, right and left, right of the equal sign. So what we're trying to find is what is the value for x, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do is when I have variables on both sides, I need to move the variables to one side. And it doesn't really matter which way do you wanna move them to. It could be both on the right, on the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the 1/4 x, okay? So to get rid of the 1/4 x, I need to subtract 1/4 x on both sides. So I'm going to subtract 1/4 x on both sides. Don't be afraid to work with fractions. I know normally we don't like to work with fractions and we want to change them to decimals, right? Well, let's give it a try with fractions. And of course, we'll do another question somewhere else later on with decimals, okay? So what's going to happen to my fraction 1/4? It's going to cancel 1/4 x and minus 1/4 x. On the left, I do see that 3/4 minus 1/4, it's awesome because both of them have the same denominator. So that will give me 2/4 x plus 5 equals 8. Okay, now look at 2/4. That can be simplified, right? And I'm going to write it down somewhere over here on the right. 2/4 can be simplified if I divide both of them by 2. And I get 1/2. Okay, so instead of writing 2/4, I'm going to write down 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it. And I'm going to say 1/2 x plus 5 equals 8. And basically right now I can see that x, it's on one side only, and we're going in the right direction then because I want x to be by itself. So I am going to get rid of the plus 5, which is my constant, okay? So I am going to subtract 5 on both sides. Remember, whatever you do on one side, you got to do it to the other side, okay? So when I subtract, the 5 minus 5, it's going to cancel. It becomes a 0. So I ended up with half of x equals 3. Okay? I know what you're thinking. Let's change it to a decimal. No, we're not. Let's work with a fraction. So how do I get rid of a fraction when I am doing equations? Well, in order for me to get rid of that 1/2, I'm going to multiply both of them by the reciprocal. Remember, it's kind of like a flip. I don't know if you guys remember that. So I'm going to multiply by 2/1. Okay? So my fractions are going to cancel, right? And I'm going to end up with x by itself. And 3 times 2/1 is the same thing than 3 times 2. And I get a 6. So notice how x was already getting by itself. So that's my answer. And please don't tell me, oh, we're done with the question, miss. Not quite yet, because what I want to do is I want you to get used to be checking your work, guys, okay? So what am I going to do when I check? When I check, I'm going to replace x with my 6 that I found, okay? So anywhere where I see an x on my problem, I will replace it with 6. So I'm going to write down my equation again. Okay, and I'm going to make it equal exactly to the 1/4 x plus 8. That's my equation, right? So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to rewrite it. And notice what I'm doing. I'm writing down everything again, but I'm leaving a parenthesis, right? And the parenthesis, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace x with that 6. So I'm going to write down a 6. And I write it down on both sides. So look what I did. Everything stays the same. The only thing that I changed was the 6 from my 6, right? From my x. So let's continue the problem. So I'm going to multiply 3/4 times 6. Is that right? So let's see what we get. So we get 3 times 6 is 18/4. plus 5, okay? And 1/4 times 6 is 6/4 plus 8. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to finish my question, right? And see if I get the same value on both sides. So 18/4, now I can change it to a fraction. It's okay. So this will give me 4.5 plus 5. And on the 6/4, it's actually 1.5 plus 8. 4.5 plus 5, it's 9.5. And on the other side, 1.5 plus 8 is also 9.5. So what do I see right now? I see the same answer on both sides. So what does that mean? It means that my answer, it is going to be x equals 6. Okay, so that's my answer. And how do I know that? Because I prove it, right? By checking my work.